Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, Binot sheyar bitzeni, al me menuchot yanachaleni, Nafshi yishovev, Yanacheni v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo. Game ki elech v'getz al mavet, lo irara ki imati. Shivtecha mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lifanai shulchan neged tzorirai. Tishanta v'shemen roshi kosiri vaya. Ach tov chesed yirdifuni ko yamei chayai v'shaveti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. As we seek comfort on these difficult days when we feel our hearts aching, we often turn to the psalmist, and so I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us as we remember Bernard Gold. To his children, Jeff and Sherry, also to Eric and Jim, to his sister Elsie, his sister-in-law Adele, and his grandchildren Matthew and Henry, to all the members of the family, and to so many dear and cherished friends, we've joined together today to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Bernie. We've been taught that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Bernard Gold, or Bernie, as most people would come to know him, was born in Cleveland in 1925 to Morris and Anna Gold. He was the youngest of 3 children. Bernie and his sister Elsie, who is here with us today, and also his brother Irv of blessed memory. They grew up on Cleveland's west side in Lakewood. Bernie's childhood years coincided with some of the most difficult years in our nation's history, but thankfully, the Gold family fared well as Bernie's father, Morris, and Morris's brother, Sam, owned a grocery store which sold fresh produce. The market was simply known as Gold's, and it was located on the corner of Detroit and West 117th. By the time Bernie was in his teens, the family moved to Cleveland Heights on Shannon Road. Bernie attended and graduated from Cleveland Heights High School. He was a smart young man. He did quite well in school, and he was also well-liked, with many, many friends. He was active in many of his school clubs, and he was also a member of the Marquis, a Jewish high school fraternity. Following his high school graduation, Bernie was drafted into the United States Army. He graduated in June of 1943, and just 1 month later, he found himself stationed stateside. He was trained as a sharpshooter, and he served our country until January of 1945. Bernie attended Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where he studied engineering. He was active in a fraternity there as well, and his children found a picture of their father and his fraternity brothers, where each of the young men signed their names, and next to their name they also wrote their nickname. Bernie's signature appeared, and his nickname underneath his signature said, "The Prince." Perhaps it's because his fraternity brothers knew that he was always a stylish dresser, or maybe, and more simply, it was because Bernie was just a prince of a guy. After his graduation from Cornell, he matriculated at Western Reserve University, where he earned his MBA. He went right into the workforce, first working for a company known as Builder's Specialty. His career moved towards real estate, and Bernie eventually owned and managed apartments and office real estate. His companies, Bernard R. Gold and Associates, and also Burgo Management, were his life's work. When Bernie met Margaret Davidson, he was well into his 30s. Throughout the years, Bernie dated a number of ladies, but none seemed to be what we would call his beshert, the one that was meant to be. And then he met Margaret, beautiful and bright, stunning, highly educated, a wonderful and accomplished young lady. And Bernie was smitten. They married in October of 1961 by Rabbi Rudolph Rosenthal at the Temple on the Heights. Throughout their 53-plus years of marriage, Bernie and Margaret were blessed with wonderful friends. Saturday evenings were a ritual to themselves. They were spent with friends at Severance Hall to enjoy performances by the Cleveland Orchestra, or perhaps at one of Cleveland's theaters to experience a play or a musical. They also enjoyed traveling, and they visited many places, including England, Italy, Greece, Spain, as well as their travels across the United States. Most important to Bernie and Margaret, however, were their most precious gems, their children, Jeff and Sherry. Your father's world seemed to orbit around your mother and the two of you. You described your dad to me as a quiet man, a man of great intelligence, and a man who possessed a sweet soul. You remember a father who rarely raised his voice and who also had a good sense of humor. Your dad, you described, was quite the handyman. You said he could fix anything, whether it was for his own home or for yours, and he did this well into his 80s. He also had quite a playful side. You could see this in so many ways. Bernie built the two of you an amazing clubhouse in the backyard of your home in Pepper Pike on Lawton Lane. This hideaway was not just four walls and a roof. No, it had a loft, it had ladders, he built tables and a front porch, all built for you by your dad with love, the love that he had for both of you, and it gave him so much pleasure to see you and all of your friends enjoy this clubhouse for so many years. Your dad also built a sukkah one year. At the time, your family was involved at Fairmount Temple. Many families built sukkot or sukkahs that year, and all of the families went around and visited all the different sukkahs. And it was your dad who won the award for the very best one. You both have sweet memories of family camping trips. But when it came to your dad and the outdoors, and this was a man who really loved the outdoors, but all he had to do was just look at poison ivy, and he would immediately break out in that most uncomfortable rash. And speaking of the outdoors, I could say that Bernie was a boater, or I could say Bernie was a boater with a question mark, because this man had more episodes on more boats. He loved taking the two of you out on a boat, but where some people have good luck and some people have bad luck, when it came to boats, Bernie had no luck. And later on, when you have chance to visit with Sherry and Jeff, please ask them to tell you some of the boating stories, because they are quite hilarious. Bernie was a wonderful father, and as his children shared with me, he was an excellent provider. Jeff and Sherry, you never wanted for anything. And you knew there were tough times when Dad was starting his own business. You knew that times were a little bit tougher, but he always found a way to provide for you. Bernie lovingly welcomed Eric and Jim into the family, and when his grandsons, Matthew and Henry, were born, he was absolutely thrilled and delighted. I had a moment to speak with Matthew and Henry. They described their Papa Bernie as a very caring man. They remember having good times at his home on Hummingbird Circle, and so many visits to the Metro Parks and the zoo, and they knew that he loved him, and they felt how very proud he was of both of them. Bernie was also an avid tennis player. He played with a core group of people several times a week. And as I mentioned earlier, he and Margaret had a very special group of friends. It was a collection of couples, and they did everything together. They vacationed together, they celebrated holidays together, and they celebrated milestones together. These friends were really like family, and I know that Bernie and Margaret both felt so blessed to have them in their lives. We're taught from our tradition that words which come from the heart enter directly to the heart. And it is so fitting at this time that I call on Bernie's son, Jeff, to share words from his heart with all of us today.
Good morning. It is difficult to stand before you and attempt to honor my father in words. It is never an easy task to capture the essence of a life in a speech, as words frequently fall short and may do so for me. As I look out before me, I see both smiles and tears. The tears, although there have been many tears of sadness in the past few days since we lost Bernie, are not tears of sadness as you sit here and remember. They are tears of joy, intermingled with nostalgic smiles for the way he has left a permanent mark on each of our minds and hearts. Bernie's patience and support of Sherry and I as we discovered who we wanted to be is my most cherished memory of our father. He always took the time to teach us how to do something, whether it was how to fix something around the house, which he was always doing, or suggestions on schoolwork or for me on my career. He supported our successes and helped us stay positive when there were challenges, and most of all, accepted each of us as we were and are. Bernie always looked for new experiences, and travel was one of the ways that he gained those experiences. From early adventures driving across the country with his parents, to his late 1950s European trip where he discovered Danish modern furniture and art from across Europe. The travel continued when he, with Margaret, and they continued to undertake trips once Sherry and I were out of the house, and maybe as an escape from us while we were still at home. Bernie was open to experiences that helped shape his view of the world. And he has passed that love of travel to me, and I am thankful for that. I see my nephews, Matthew and Henry, remembering visits with their papa and Maggie, and the closet of toys that they knew were there just for them, especially my old Legos. The doting smiles that they brought to Bernie's face were a gift to us all. And the smiles became one of the most enduring and wonderful parts of Bernie over the past few years. The smiles when he would visit Margaret, and how his face would light up when Sherry and I would visit him. His smile was infectious and made each of us feel good, even when we knew there was so much that he could no longer say. My father's friends have their own private memories of Bernie, which I know they cherish. I remember sitting at the top of the stairs as a child and listening to the laughter and conversation during dinners and parties at our house. And as Cantor Sebo mentioned, the weekly outings with friends to Severance Hall and Blossom Music Center. The trips to Punderson and later to Canada and Treasure Cay, where inevitably Bernie would rent a boat. And we all knew a sailing incident was coming. Whether he would run out of fuel, flip a sailboat, or get lost, it was always an adventure we would remember. Tennis was a passion for him, and at times during his life he would play 2 to 3 times a week, even into his 80s. The interactions with friends became an enduring part of his routine, including later on lunches with a group that fondly called themselves the Romeos, really old men eating out at Heinen's Landerwood after a game of tennis. Over the past few years, as day-to-day life became harder, he relied on the loving care of Nadine Glatley and her team of caregivers, especially Vanita Barham, who was with him for over 2 years, and Delana Williams, who was with him for over a year. Vanita, Delana, and Nadine could always get a smile from him. Sherry and I are grateful for the attention they paid and the respect and genuine love they had for him. His life was so much better because they were a part of it. When faced with adversity or problems, he always kept the optimist creed in mind. When we were cleaning out the garage of Margaret and Bernie's home this past December, we found his copy hanging in the garage, and it reads, "Promise yourself to be strong, that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel that there is something worthwhile in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful expression at all times and give a smile to every living creature you meet, to give so much time to improving yourself that you have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble, to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud word, but in great deeds, to live in the faith that the whole world is on your side, so long as you are true to the best that is in you. I know that somewhere my dad is smiling down at us and wishing us well. We love you, Dad. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff and Sherry, as I told you, the poet Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote these words on what it means to be successful. And perhaps, while they didn't know each other, perhaps Emerson had your father in mind when he wrote, "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden path, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you lived. This is to have succeeded." We take a moment as we ask God to accept Bernie's soul. And as you are able, please rise for the El Mole, the memorial prayer. El Mole Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamse Menucha Nuchana Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'malot Kedoshim Utorim, Kezohar Arakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Benyamin, בת מוישה וחנה, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן, תהא מנוחתו. אנא ברחמים אסתירהו, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high and who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed, Bernard R. Gold. To Bernie, who has gone to his eternal home, may his soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that his memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we answer, Amen. Please be seated. Friends, our service of memory continues at the Mount Olive Cemetery, and following the interment, the family will receive visitors at the home of Sherry and Jim. They live in Solon on Wintergreen Drive. The address is 33090, 33090 Wintergreen Drive. They'll receive visitors following our service at the cemetery until 5 p.m., and then again later this evening from 6:30 until 9. Also tomorrow, Friday, they'll receive visitors from 1 until 5 p.m., and also Saturday evening from 7 until 9. Bernie, we know, lived at the Wiles since 2011, so the family has suggested that anyone who wishes to make a contribution in memory of Bernie and their father, their grandfather, that you might consider that those contributions go to the Montefiore Foundation. On behalf of the entire family, we thank you for your support today.